is?
14th.
Video 3. VIDEO4. Eventually I'll work out a pattern where it'll all look the same. Be much smoother. I haven't done that yet.
October.
This is very much a learning
14th.
thing for me. God. If I ever get this down,
Let's erase
pat, I will be amazed.
And let's go back to our screen.
When we look at our screen like this,
And start.
you'll notice every module looks like every other module, and every module has something called pass in it.
Let's go back to our program.
The reason it gets a pass,
So
that's how I work with every video, or
Right
every
down
program
here
I work out. I actually
is
make,
because you don't
I
want
actually
it to
carry
do
around
anything.
a bunch of functions in my hands that I've used.
Does that
in the
make
past
sense?
over and over again.
That's
on
just out
thumbnails.
there as a skeleton.
And I just
There's
import
nothing
it.
in it yet.
I use aliases.
This
You'll-
one
you'll
up
notice
here
that in
as a
in
return
Python.
list.
I haven't really gone into this because
That's extremely different.
why?
I haven't really gone into this.
But
It's going to
if we
return
take a
something
look
to the
at my,
program,
add
and the
help.
pass just means build the diff.
I
and
use
throw a pass
an
in.
alias.
You have to
An
put
alias
a pass in. there.
is
You have to put a pass in.
and also known
when you
as
put code in there, you
in Python when you
eradicate the
import
pass. You erase
an entire
destroy
class or an
Make
entire
it comment it out.
module.
Take it out
You
in
can
the woods and
assign
shoot
it
it.
an
I don't care
alias.
what you
This
do
is
with
my-
it, but you
my-
have to get rid of
my
it. List in the file. This is what it's called in the file. And I refer to
Now,
it as
traditionally, what
utilities
I've done
as
with
UL.
these types of
Why would I
things
give
is-
it an alias?
Well, let me
Anybody.
see what the next video is so that I don't screw this up.
So I don't have
Or
to
the next
keep
pages.
typing utilities list. Utilities list works fine as a module name. But to be
Right
honest
there.
with you, if you've got 9 million utilities in the
I
utilities
seem to be
list,
frozen.
which is probably too
I
many,
don't
you
like
should
being
maybe
frozen.
consider making 3 or 4 different utility
I may
lists
be frozen.
if you have that many. But imagine typing utilities all the time and not making a mistake.
Put me there.
It's not going to happen. You will make mistakes. Now, Python gives you
Well,
the ability of
do you know what
using
happens when you
an
freeze?
alias and typing that into
Go out here
whatever
to
command you
your-
want to
your
be. So that
lecture space.
if you want the utilities
start
to
it
read
back
the
up
file,
again.
it would be ul.lis
And go to where you were.
read a file into list or whatever the name is.
That looks
The
familiar.
one of the other beauties behind this is,
And I'll pull
when
all
I'm
this
doing
stuff
my
out.
coding, once I've already got
That
this
looks
file
familiar.
name,
Close this.
and all right, now you can call a module
Once I've
anything
already
you
got
want to call
this
a
file
module.
name, let's go up here to.
I'll pull all that stuff out.
I can
so that
take this,
hopefully it
and
won't
there's
still
my
be there.
file name right there.
Why would you come here?
I can cut and paste this with
How'd you
Control
say
C.
Louder. And grab that line
Naya
and just
Margaria.
move it into my
What?
code.
And bingo, bango,
Louder.
and beads, there it is.
It's
And,
a volcano in
point
Nepal.
this out.
Is it?
We'll
Yes.
go, oh,
But it's not
What am I
written in
doing
the
here?
poly.
Oh, I
It's
ran
written
this.
in different script.
Let's kill
Oh
this.
my
Let's
God,
open
you
up.
mean you didn't know what it was
this
and
for
you're
a
from
proc.
Nepal?
We don't have volcano, do we?
Yes, you have
And
a
let's
volcano.
get rid of this.
I found one right there, just for
Yeah,
you.
And just say,
What's wrong with naming it after all volcanoes?
I wish you wouldn't laugh behind my back. It hurts my feelings.
It's not a volcano. It's a script.
Control
It
V.
doesn't tell you anything
There's
about
my
it.
whole
This
process.
is really bizarre. I'm
And
glad
I
you said
think
that.
I can
because
access
that
it
just
like
adds
this.
to my argument. You
I
name
haven't
things,
done
you
this
don't
in a
name
while.
things after that, because nobody
I'll save
knows
it.
what this means. Nobody knows what this means. I didn't
And
know
run it.
what it meant. I
No,
had
that
to
won't
dig it
work,
up
but
out of the bowels of
Missing one
Google
required.
land
Yeah, file name.
to find a
Okay.
volcano.
Do you
but
do you understand what I'm getting
And
at?
I'm not even sure it's not Pakistan or one of those other places because it
Can't
just
see
said
it?
Nepali region.
Oh, good. Then when I screwed up, it didn't
I
matter.
don't know what that region is.
But
But
anyway, the idea is that
that's
with,
a problem. If you name a utility file
Or a
using
module
something
statements
like
properly.
utilities dick,
and
then
setting things up like that,
came out wrong.
you can scrape your names, and that way you don't make a mistake. That just
I
came
come
out.
from an IBM background.
You at
and I
least
started
know it's
in
got
IBM,
something to do
and
with
one of the
dictionaries,
basic rules
right?
was everything was epsilon. And that meant that you could only have 8 characters for the name
In
of a
Python,
function or a
it
file.
does. In Python, it
8
does.
characters.
This is just
That
an
meant
acronym they
in
use
order
in
to write
Python.
a file
And I
or
never
a
much
function
gave
that
it a
meant
thought.
anything, you had to
I didn't
start
give it a thought
cutting
because
down
I was
characters
busy
so
writing.
that people could sit
But
there
anyway,
and make some logic
Keep
out
that
of
in
it,
mind.
okay?
You know it has to do with
Very much
dictionaries
we
in
began to
Python.
read in acronyms, similar to what I just put up
You
on
may not
Dick.
know what
That makes
what's
perfect
in
sense
the
to me. I didn't realize how
utility,
bad it
but
would
you
sound,
know it has to
but
do
it
with
made
dictionary.
perfect sense to me.
Okay?
We would cut out all vowels. And I
Let's
still
pass a
write
rule.
in
Thou
IBM.
shalt not
I
name
still will
modules
write
a
a name and
mysterious
cut out all
name
the
that
vowels.
only you
Because
understand.
believe it or not, you
Hell,
can read
heck,
8 characters
you come
and
from
realize
Nepal
what
and
something
you
does
didn't
without the
understand that
vowels.
one, right?
Even though it's
I mean,
misspelled.
it's not that I'm trying to be
Remember, you
ridiculous.
only have 8 possible
Yeah,
possibilities.
it has
That
to be
means
something that
64
makes
possible
sense in the
combinations
team,
of those
in the
exact names.
organization.
Those
When I went to
exact
graduate
letters.
school, I had an instructor who
That's
named
a big
all
deal.
his servers
That's a
after
limiting
some
factor.
obscure
So you learn
reference
to
to
do
Harry
things
Potter.
like that. Well, you
Well,
don't have
I
to
got
do that
news
in
for you,
Python.
folks.
Python
I've
allows
never
you to write
read
a name, I
Harry
think, up to
Potter.
30 characters.
So
don't
I
think
didn't
I've ever
understand
had to
his
write a name 30
references.
characters.
And he thought
mean,
this
that
was
would be
just
like
appalling.
Going from Manchester to
programmer
New
doesn't
York
read Harry
and not stopping at
I
Brooklyn.
never understood his logic behind that.
And I still think that might
But it
fit
would have
in
been
there
better to
somewhere.
have it named
Do you know?
server
Do you
one.
follow what I'm getting on?
Server
Getting
two,
at, so you don't have to worry
server
about
three,
those
and work the way down.
inefficiencies in a
wasn't,
name.
though.
But
If
if
you
you
look at
had
a
to write
module,
it
the
all
first
the
thing you
time,
should
wanna
notice
use
is
an
that
alias.
if you looked at my
And that's
my,
where you come up with this
module
this
a minute
epsilon
ago, the
stuff.
first thing you should notice
And you'll
is
learn it as you
most
go
of it's
along.
empty.
But
Okay?
some people
I
never
keep
learn it.
some people
Modules
do.
hanging around like that, empty.
Again,
Where-
this is
where
just
it has
talking
a bunch
about
of
my
empty stuff in
AKA
it,
or my
so that I can
help,
fill them up
process.
as I come across the material that I need to put out.
And it acts for me as an index so that I
sit there and
fact
my
is,
doc
the
string
entire
very much
module will
acts
be
as
a
an
template
index.
container in which I will
in fact, in a
populate
lot of
as I
modules,
need.
you will see that
If
my
I don't
doc
need
string
all
is
these
more
modules,
important
I
than
can
easily go
comments
through
inside the program or delete them,
because my doc
or I
string
can leave them
contains
there because you're not about anything to the program, and it's
Good
not going to
example
hurt
is
my
this.
senses.
I wrote
Sensibility.
a screen driver. The module is divided up into
And
two
in that
sections.
screen driver, I
A
have
doc string
utility
section
screen line.
and then the module section, the residence section for the modules, the defs, the
And
actual
we'll make this a little
processing
bit
are at the
bigger
bottom, so
I
that you
do
can
this
see it.
because
Even though this may seem a little unnatural, there is a rationale to my madness. The rationale to my
Apply.
madness is that
Everybody
I can
can see
always
that?
use the magic of a help function to help
Up
me
here you've
find
got
what's
a,
in a module. It doesn't
returns
do
the
me any good
headline.
to have a bunch
Everybody
of
knows
modules
all
laying
programs
around
have
in
a
a,
header line.
in a
The header
library
line
somewhere. If
is,
I
in
can't
our
sit
particular
down and
case,
easily access them.
this
And
right here,
determine
the
what
header
I'm looking
line.
for in that module.
You agree?
Building that header line is not such an easy
They just
thing.
become-
But if you go down and you look in the base here, you see how the header line is built.
Only I know which sheet of paper to go to.
And you pay attention
That's a
to
big
it.
problem.
It has other procs that it
So I actually write
built
a
the header
small
line,
program,
but your header line is simply done
called
like that.
help.py.
And I've got a check line in there. What's a
And
check line
let's
supposed?
go look
What do
at
you suppose a check line
help.py
does for
real
me?
quick.
There's all it is. That's it. That's my
A
check line makes sure that my program doesn't
my
exceed 79 characters. Or my
that's a
line doesn't
notepad
exceed
version of
79
it.
characters.
But this is what @help.
That way, when I'm developing it, if
look
I
at
make
this,
a mistake,
you can see that the project I
and I
was
do,
working on,
I'm able to
used
catch it in
code
development.
and CCs and stuff like
and
that.
what this does,
But it also used
is
utilities.
this
list,
whole routine
which are
right here
list
produces-
processes I use in my utilities. So when I go out and I click on it,
this stuff.
behold, it lists all the things I've done in my utilities.
These
And
are
it
all
also
my
comes
screens
down
put
to
together
tell me
in one
if
big
they're
module.
empty. Eventually, I'll hit a spot
Why do
where
you
there'll
look
be empty
confused, Scott?
utilities. Or Peter.
Well,
See that? List H, list.
it's a lot to look
They're
at. It's a
empty
lot to think
utilities.
about, isn't it?
They haven't been filled yet with
really
anything,
is.
so there's nothing in there. Everything up above has
It's a
been
lot to
filled
think about. But a lot of
and
times,
that means
in
that I
large
can
ma-
go
in
out here
large
and
projects,
once I've
that's
done all
exactly
this
what
stuff,
they'll do.
I can
and you
keep
call
it,
them as you need
keep
them.
it forever and have a quick way of referencing it, like
This
I would
is
in
an example
execs.
of a driver. This is a driver that
Some
I
people
built
like to arrange
that
things
caused the
alphabetically.
screens from that I was just showing
I
you.
don't do that.
This driver
I
looks
do it
like
this way because I read fast enough where I can go down and my names are names of the processes I do
all it looks like.
are descriptive enough where
And if I want to
I
call a
rarely
screen
make a
out of
mistake.
water
If you'll
or
notice the
add a
name of
screen,
one of these
guess what I do? I
processes
go
is,
into my driver,
uh,
I add it, and I just run it that way. It's not that complicated a process.
come on.
But all this is produced by a program. Why do I produce it with a program?
LIS stands for list
The
processes.
same reason
or
I
the
hate
utility.
PowerPoints.
And
I always screw up
read
in
a file
PowerPoints.
into a list. File name. I don't
What do you
like
suppose
them.
that
They're just
does?
difficult for me to envision. I can see the screens.
But I can't see PowerPoints.
You give it
I
the
can see
file
how this
name, you
works,
import
but I
the
can't see
the
PowerPoints. And then
project,
you run
and
across
you've got
another
a process
professor
that
who
reads a
uses
file
nothing
into
but
a
PowerPoint.
list. That's
Loves
all it does.
He sees them. They see
Yeah.
them.
It can't be any simpler than
I am
that.
so
It
used to
tells
working
me
with what
it
they call
does.
kicks,
And if I go out
which is
on a
basically
job
a
and they say you
screenwriter
have to
that
change
this
the name,
process makes far more
that's
sense
fine.
to
I
me
can
than
change
PowerPoint.
the name on a job, but this gives
So you
me
keep banging
information
around like this, and
that I didn't
eventually
have
you'll be
before.
like me. Weird.
So that I never have to worry
That's my
about a
granddaughter.
boss coming
She'll
up
tell
to
you.
me saying, "Can you read a file into
You're
a
a weird
list?"
one, Grandpa.
Of course I can.
Well, yeah, sometimes.
Pull out the utility out of my pocket, give me the file. Bingo, bango, and beads. It goes into a list.
All right, after writing
It's
all that
that
code, you've
simple.
got a pre-existing routine that you keep hanging around. So
And that pre-existing
routine in
I'm
some
just
lab
trying
somewhere
to-
stays there, and you can
trying to
grab it
teach
and
you
use
to
it
be
as you need it and
programmers.
as you don't need it. And
You
think
no
about your
longer
tasks,
have to
not
write that
simply
code.
Sit down and cut code. Okay? And if we
The
go down here
practical
and we look at
increases
the read,
it'll dazzle your boss.
put files into a list,
Really will.
it took me, come on, baby, quick. You will see down here at the base,
To write these programs,
Functions.
these utilities, it's an hour
somewhere, an hour there, read a file into a list.
When I'm sitting there
Now, it's
doing
going
some
to
programming,
automatically
I
list
realize
these
I'm
out
doing
in
this over
alphabetical
and
order
over
for
and
you in the
over and
base.
over again.
But you
So
don't
I'll
care,
just
do
sit
you?
down and add it to one of my utilities.
I mean, once you figured
somewhere
out
where
which
it's
one you
appropriate.
know, and these are all
And
test.
then I'll
This is
sit
all
there and I'll
tested
run them.
code in
And
this
I'll
portion
I'll
of the
carry them
program
around on a
anyway.
thumb drive when I go out
So,
on a job for
You don't
something
have
like
an issue
Python or
until this
Java.
program,
And I have
and
the code
we'll
written
start
for
our
me.
next video.
I have the code tested for me. It's particularly important in C++ when somebody sits there and says, well, you've got a memory leak. No,
Python.
I don't.
Does anyone remember what
My
video
code
this is?
works because it's been around for 10 years, and you're the only one to complain about a memory leak. So that means somebody you hired built a memory leak in there. Now, I know that sounds terribly arrogant, and it's not meant to. What it means is basically you can do a lot just by storing your code up in modules and save yourself a whole lot of misery. I know I talked to somebody over the weekend. I like the analysis, I like the design, I hate the code. Somewhere along the line, somebody's got to write some code. And if you've already written it and you wrote it 10 years ago, and you've forgotten what you wrote 10 years ago, but it still works today, does it matter? You've just kept using it and using it and using it, right? So it doesn't matter. Let's freeze this. And let's keep moving. Let's make another video. Oh, I didn't erase it this time. Good. That means I can keep track of what video I'm on. Week 5, or video 5. So we'll keep walking through these videos, and ultimately what we'll do is maybe you'll get an idea on how to use modules. All right? Actually, it can save you a whole lot of headaches. It really can. In my particular case, it matters not to me if you've got a if you've got a module that's filled with a whole bunch of empty defs because I built my skeleton and I kept my defs in the skeleton. If it matters to somebody, if you go out on a job and a guy looks at it and says, why'd you leave all these empty defs there? They're not going to affect anything. You might want to have a feel for your work partners, and you might pull them all out. But the plain fact of the matter is they're not going to hurt anything, so it doesn't matter, not to me at least. It also allows me some versatility. If half is 6 months down the road, I want to add something, I've got a place to add it. So it comes in handy that way. But that's not for everybody. A good rule of thumb is you decide what you might need stuffed away in a module and develop a module and put it in there. Another good rule is when you write code, don't write code when code is that you don't write code when code can write it for you. See, I screw up my word. If you can get some code that writes code for you, like that module I showed you with the screens, use it. Use it. Don't write code when you can get something that's already tested that writes code for you. It's easy to write code. It's hard to debug it. Okay? And if you've already got something that will write some code for you, neatly and organized, you don't have to debug it. Can you see this? It sounds kind of stupid, doesn't it? Code writing code. I mean, how hard can writing code be? It's not how hard can writing code be, it's how productive can you be when you write code. And if you're constantly making stupid mistakes like leaving colons off, and you will. It will drive you bananas. The whole idea is to keep your hair on your head. Nobody wants to look like me. This is also part of learning to write tools. Everybody needs to learn to write tools. Tools are things that come in handy that you carry around on a thumb drive that are going to help you write your code. There's a scripting language associated with IBM mainframes. It's called SyncSort. Nobody knows SyncSort. Nobody. God doesn't know SyncSort. It's so complicated. But you can write a whole bunch of small scripted tools in what they call recs, or you could at the time. I don't know. I haven't used recs in a long time. That run your SyncSort commands. List your SyncSort commands in a nice organized fashion, and they always work. Because they're commands that have been tested before, and recs just sends the commands to the machine, and you keep them handy on a thumb drive. Automation is not an easy thing to see. Sometimes it's a difficult thing to see, but automation sure as hell beats writing every line of code. Do you follow me? You can say that you write code that generates code. Okay, I do that. I've been doing that for years. Build a tool when you can use one. You can't always build a tool. Don't get lost in this concept that, oh, I can build a tool to do that for me. You can't always build a tool. But for very simple processes, you can build a tool. And when you build a tool, you can take that tool and you can carry it around with you, and it will save you a whole lot of misery. Making a tool that will reduce the number of key throws consequently reduces your errors. Your errors aren't going to be in logic more often than not. Your errors will be in coding. You left a colon off. You misspelled 2 words. Something like that. Something that's just everybody does. That's what writing a tool can help you with. Errors will be typing, not logic. Wow. It just makes sense that you limit these errors as much as possible. All right, now this goes out to my work file again, the one you couldn't see. That's what this, can you see it now? Can you see it now? Huh? Yeah. This goes out to my work. That's not a particularly complicated file, is it? You agree with that? Is it complicated?
What, this one?
Yeah.
Not super complicated.
No, it's not complicated. There's nothing wrong with it. builds my skeleton. And then I take my skeleton and I work with it.
Well, like, there are some stuff that we don't know what it does.
Well, that's what you need to ask me for.
Hey, ask what you don't know.
Ask what you don't know and keep going, but ask loud enough so everybody can hear, not I can't see that.
That was this guy.
What don't you understand?
Like, when you were F0 is a 0, you go like right.
FO. File open, file closed. That's an old convention.
Okay.
That's just an old convention I use. I should maybe say file, F-I-L-E, open, but I don't.
Like if you could write it in short form where you want to extend.
Right, that's correct. Why would I want to extend it? Excuse me a minute. I have a phone call. It's from Deerfield Beach, Florida. These are people calling me about Medicare. Well, let's answer them.
Give them a break here.
Oh, this is Aaron.
Hello, how are you?
I'm calling on behalf of the Medicare Plus card. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fine. Don't call me again. I've said this like 8 times.
You are an active member.
God, put things into perspective, folks.
No, I do that too, but I speak in different language, so they get confused too.
Yeah.
They're like, what are you talking
My wife yells at me when I pick up the phone and start to swear at them in French. She says, they might understand you. No, that's all that is. That's just a convention I used for years. FO open, FO write, FO, that means file open, or file operation. It's just something I've used for years. You might sit down and write down file writes, or write file. You've done the reading on files, I take it. You've done the reading on files, I take it. You've done the readings on files, I take it. I gave it to you about 2 weeks ago. Oh my gosh. It's don't ask me to remember. I done give it to you and forgot. But I know I gave it to you. You should have already the readings on files. But those are just conventions I use. And if you need to debug this program, just pull it up on your screen, sit there and look at it and walk through it and do it in another browser so that you can freeze it. It's not gonna go anywhere. And that's all this does. This just writes a skeleton. That's it. Just a skeleton. And it doesn't have to be particularly beautiful, but it fits the nomenclature or the structure I like to use. And the only thing you have to change in this is this right here, because this is going to tell you what your file out is and what you're going to call your skeleton. Let's close this. Let's move on to the next screen. Let's take a look at my utility CSV2 file. I don't even remember what that is. I wrote it so long ago. But it should be here. Oh, I know where that is. It's in another folder. And I don't have access to it right now. Ooh, where are you? You're on my E drive. I keep that in my Python code depository. Why? Why would I keep it there? So I know where to find it. I can carry it around with me. And this is what it looks like. This has a whole bunch of files in it. And one of the things that a lot of people don't seem to realize is if you sit there and the first thing you do when you go to add something, you type in Control F, brings up a find. The place I'm going to add is CSVH. So I can type in here CSVH. Find next, And it's going to drop me down to CSV8 so that I'm not going scroll madness. And I can go back up to CSVH, and I simply change the data in CSVH or whatever I'm going to add. I add my record, the fields I need to go, and my comments, and then I do a CSVH, and I move my comments up to my doc string, and bingo, bango, and beads, there it is. And we can go out there and we can look at these things very easily by going into my ZT help. I don't know why I called it ZT help this time. CSV2 and running it. Now, when it gives me a squeezed text like this, that means that it's got too many lines in there. Just click on that and bingo, it drops it down. So my skeleton is built. I now have an index built, and I know what I'm looking at. I can now scrape names, and I know this takes a little bit of practice. This isn't going to come with you overnight, and I would be an idiot to say it does. But I can now scrape names and make things work a little bit better, and it's a little bit more organized. Not only that, as I'm developing code, by keeping this particular thing open, if I want to look at what screens look like, I can go out there and do help screens, and it's going to pull up what my screens are. And I can do it just, well, let's just see. I have no idea what US screens are. Why? Why don't I have any idea? Because I wrote them so long ago, I've forgotten. Oh my God, I've forgotten something. But there I have a blank screen. That's my screen module. So I can build my screens there. I can do whatever I want in this, and it works well. And it's an approach to a program. Let's freeze this. Let's go back to video 5, and let's make video 6. I didn't think we'd go into 6 videos today. Reset and start. But techniques like this allow us to do a screen-driven program. Now, I know that these techniques had to be beat into my head. What does that mean, Peter?
Gotta practice them a lot.
You got to practice them. You really do. You've got to practice them. But once you practice them, and after you develop them, and it's an important thing to develop in a basic programming or introductory programming class, because when you go into data structures, I'm not going to teach you this stuff. These techniques are going to be gone. And if you're constantly rewriting code and rewriting code and rewriting code and rewriting code, you're only going to go nuts. And you don't have to. You can address the problem, which is what the focus of a data structures class is, and not necessarily the code. And if you have a decent collection of code, you can go out there and grab that code, run with it, use it and run with it, and keep going. Okay? Believe me, I put a lot of, I know you don't believe this, but I put a lot of thought into my lectures, especially since they've been cut down to 2 hours and I have to do things a little differently. Oh, then you program it. Get rid of your empty diffs if you want to. The real goal is to make things as easy as possible. Do I look like I'm going backwards? What you don't want to do is to overcomplicate the process. Overcomplicating the process means that you've got 17 different imports out there, and you can't get something to run, so you try a different import. You try a different import. You can't do that. You have to get something running, get it running well, and test it inside the module itself, and then try to run it.
Build a tool, build it to do one thing and one thing only. You go back to that screen module I showed you, that had the first line, the header line of the screen. All it did was structure the header line and then replace it with data that it grabbed from a flat file somewhere. Oh, this is a good example. This is the example I used. Wow, I can't believe I did that, right? This is actually your line. This is the line you put out there. You'll notice I put a comment up on top with a measurement. Why? Because I don't want to exceed 79 characters across the screen. I only want to go out 78. I throw a bunch of Q's in there. Why do I throw Q's? Because I can use the replace verb in Python to replace it with the project name that I got from someplace else, and the integrity of my spacing stays the same. Do you follow me?
Yeah, because otherwise the author thing would move.
Otherwise the author thing would move, and you can't have the author thing move. You need the integrity. So that sets it aside. Now, if I put a name out there that's more Q's than I've got posted, and why do I use Q? Because it's the most infrequently used letter in the alphabet, in our alphabet. I don't know, is it, you don't have Q in Nepalese, do you?
We have another alphabet.
Pardon?
We have different alphabets.
Yeah, totally different. You know, at the risk of saying I want to put some
Yeah, we have the
same alphabet,
Yeah.
at the risk of using some obscure alphabet that nobody understands, I use the letter Q. And everybody knows there is no such word as Q, 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 right? I could have used A. I didn't. I used Q because it's the most infrequently used letter in the American alphabet, or the English Western European alphabet that we've become comfortable with. I don't even know what our alphabet is called, but it makes sense. So it maintains your integrity. See this? I said each line has to have a screen number. Each line in my screens changes. If you'll notice right here, down here, I've got a screen name. I got another bunch of Q's. This is my second line in my screen. My screen right here, see this screen right here? This increments itself. So if I have 75 more screens, it's going to keep adding on to it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And this is all done working within an Excel spreadsheet. Why? Because it checks the length on one side and allows me to keep it around 30 characters. And 2, it allows to increment it so that I can walk through it. Oh my God, I've just saved myself a ton of headaches. You don't see it right now, do you? Honestly. Well, I have to put 6 lectures a week together. Think about it that way. I need a tool to make it manageable. Or else I'd go nuts. PowerPoint-wise alone, I'd want to commit PowerPoint aside. If you find your individual diffs inside of your utility getting around 30 lines, you need to split that up. Okay, your module can call as many modules inside that module as it wants to. So it adds to your ability. It makes it work a little bit, but if it's over 30 lines, you really want to sit down and consider splitting it up. You may need 30 lines, but more often than not, you're not. Okay? I use 30 lines just as a key. And I'm frozen again. Be damned. I don't know why I froze again. Well, you know why I'm freezing? I'm freezing because this mouse moves. This mouse switches position on the screen. Driver, let's just jump out to the end. Oh, take a look at the number. I told you the number changes. My wife didn't believe that when she first saw it. She goes through these things, and do you know what she checks for? Spelling. Yes, I have an editor. She didn't know she was signing on for that when she married me, but she did. We were at 152. There we are. Kill it and keep moving. Some rules to keep in mind. Keep things simple. Don't overcomplicate it. 2, every diff you build, put a comment in the doc string. That way it always acts as an index. If you build a diff and you don't put a comment in the doc string, then you're making a huge mistake. Okay? If the diff procedure is over 30 lines, consider breaking it up. That doesn't mean at 31 lines you have to break it up into 2 15 and a 16 line thing. But if it's over 30 lines and it looks like it's getting increasingly complicated, you need to break it up into smaller routines. Keep it small and keep it lovely. Test each procedure inside the module. If you test each procedure inside the module, then you're sure it's going to work outside the module when you use it as an import. Does that make sense? That might sound really silly, but that's what you do. You test each procedure in the module. Keep your eye open for routines that you're using all the time. Take those routines and stick them in a module. Be they a print routine, be them a structure routine, whatever it is. Keep an eye open for it because you're only going to use it again. So why are you sitting there? I don't write code anymore without Google because I forget so much. And I will sit there and I'll spin my wheels. You don't want to spin your wheels. Eliminate the error by doing simple stuff. And I think this is a good place to stop. Let's take a look. The lab this week is to build a module that will take your screen files and convert them into a Python module. That means if you've got 25 different screens out there, you build a module that reads them in one at a time and converts it into a screen module, which is all concatenated. Okay? Because you're going to need, how many screens are you going to need to run your project? Did you come up with?
Like the final?
Yeah, to start, this is the final. We're working on it now. What'd you think? You just don't do anything in this class? I mean, this is the final. How many screens do you think you're going to need? Did you come up with over the last week that you think you're going to need?
I wasn't really sure what to do. I only made 4.
4? That's a start, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's a start. So how many screens need to go in your screen file?
4.
4. But
Yeah.
what if you need 10?
You could always add more.
You can add them. That's the whole idea. And all your screen files go in the screen module. And that way you know where to go when you've got a screen. Because what will happen is you'll have so many screens out there or so many different modules out there, you will be naming them after that obscure volcano. And you won't mean to. You won't mean to. And that's okay. Let's keep moving here. So that's your process. It doesn't need to be complicated. If you need help, take the time to review the videos. There should be some hidden gems. Well, see, she missed one. She missed one. Hidden gems in them. And basically, that's the end of our lecture today. And that's it.